You destroyed our $3,000 drone, you vandal. We're suing you for everything, damages, legal fees, all of it. The HOA president slammed the lawsuit papers against my door with a smug grin that said she'd already won. My only crime? Knocking their surveillance drone out of the sky after it hovered outside my 16-year-old daughter's bedroom window at dawn, lens locked on her while she was changing, recording her most private moment. For weeks, that buzzing predator had stalked our neighborhood. Over backyard barbecues, kid sleepovers, family dinners, turning our homes into a surveillance prison while we paid for the privilege with our own HOA dues. The second I saw it pressed against my daughter's window, I grabbed my old paintball gun and ended it. The crash into my rose bushes was the most satisfying sound I'd ever heard. Now they were coming for my house, my savings, my livelihood. Would you have done anything different? But here's what they didn't know. The memory card I pulled from that wreckage before Garrett could blink? It didn't just have footage of my daughter. It had 43 video files documenting a criminal enterprise that was about to put 3 people in federal prison. I'm Rex Caldwell, 45 years old, divorced electrician. And 6 months ago, I accidentally dismantled the most sophisticated HOA crime ring in county history, with a paintball gun and an electrician's habit of documenting everything. Moving to Willowbrook Estates was supposed to be my fresh start. Me and my 16-year-old daughter Sage, quieter streets, a neighborhood where the biggest scandal should be Mrs. Johnson's garden gnomes facing the wrong direction. The realtor kept gushing about community standards. Should have been my first red flag. My delusion lasted exactly 18 days. Entered Delilah Winters, HOA president, real estate agent, and walking proof that small amounts of power create the worst kinds of people. Blonde bob so sharp it could cut glass. White Mercedes prowling the streets like a suburban shark. She materialized at my door on a Tuesday with a measuring tape and that special smile reserved for delivering bad news. Mr. Caldwell, your shed violates setback requirements by 14 inches. I showed her my city permit. Full compliance with all municipal codes. City codes don't supersede our covenants, she chirped, clicking her pen like she was keeping score. $500 fine. Then the hits kept coming. Mailbox wrong shade of black, $200. Christmas lights up 1 day late, $150. Sage's basketball hoop making excessive noise, at 3 in the afternoon, $300. My 72-year-old neighbor Mrs. Finley leaned over her fence one evening. She's targeting you specifically. Rest of us don't get hit this hard. As an electrician I document everything. Every wire, every violation, every safety issue. I started photographing every fine, every inspection, every time Delilah showed up with her measuring tools. First audio recordings, then video when she wasn't looking. Something about this whole operation felt deeply wrong. Then at the monthly HOA meeting she unveiled her masterpiece. Comprehensive property compliance monitoring through advanced aerial technology. Translation: we bought a drone to spy on you. Garrett Bloom, vice president and professional clipboard hugger, nodded along like this was completely normal. I pulled out my phone and hit record. What's your policy on recording through Windows? I asked. Her smile could have frozen hellfire. Community standards supersede individual privacy expectations. The room went dead quiet. That night I installed my first security camera. If Delilah wanted to build a surveillance state, I'd make sure every violation of our rights got documented in high definition. What I didn't know was that within 2 weeks, their drone would be hovering outside my daughter's bedroom window, and I'd be reaching for something far more effective than a camera. The machine showed up on a Monday morning like a mechanical vulture. I was drinking coffee when that angry wasp buzz cut through the quiet. Through my kitchen window, I watched this sleek white drone hovering over my backyard, camera gimbal rotating like a robotic eyeball hunting for violations. My electrician brain kicked in. FAA regulations are very clear. Flying drones over private property for surveillance without consent isn't just creepy. It's federally illegal with serious criminal penalties. My HOA was breaking federal law. With my own money. Tuesday brought our first real confrontation. Sage was studying outside in shorts and a tank top when the drone descended and hovered directly overhead, close enough she could see her reflection in the camera lens. She bolted for the house. I exploded outside to find Garrett on the sidewalk, controller in his sweaty grip, smirking like he'd caught us running a meth lab. Get that thing away from my daughter. Public airspace. He tapped his clipboard. Checking for violations. What violations? She's reading. Section 4.7b requires outdoor activities utilize approved furniture. Your daughter's blanket constitutes unpermitted ground covering. I started recording. If these people wanted to manufacture crimes, I'd document every ridiculous second. Friday evening brought the moment that shattered my last shred of patience. I was grilling burgers for Sage and her friend Emma when the drone descended to eye level 15 feet away. Camera zoomed in on the girls' faces while they tried to eat. "Mr. Caldwell," Emma whispered, "why is that robot staring at us?" I marched to where Garrett stood grinning with his controller. "You're filming minors without consent. That's a felony. Community compliance monitoring. Section 2.4c limits outdoor social activities to immediate family unless proper permits filed 72 hours in advance." That's when I noticed something. Garrett wasn't operating randomly. He was following a systematic pattern. Hitting specific houses in sequence, spending extra time over families with teenagers. This wasn't standard harassment. This was targeted surveillance of children. That night Sage asked if we could move. "I feel watched all the time, Dad." "It's gross." I tucked her in with a promise. "No more creepy drones, sweetheart. Daddy's about to turn this game around." Sunday morning, 6:30 a.m. The sound that yanked me from sleep wasn't my alarm. It was that familiar angry wasp buzz right outside Sage's bedroom window. I peered through my blinds. There it was, hovering 3 feet from her second-story window like a mechanical stalker, camera lens locked on her room while she was getting dressed for her morning run. That was it. I threw on jeans and headed for the garage where my old Tipman paintball gun hung on the wall like a forgotten weapon waiting for its moment. 20 years since I'd used it for weekend games with my electrician crew. Back when my biggest worry was which beer to crack after work. I loaded it with high-velocity paintballs and stepped into my backyard with the calm focus of a man who'd finally found his breaking point. My phone was already recording. If I was going down for this, I'd document every second. The drone hung motionless, recording my daughter through glass. Sage spotted it and screamed, diving behind her dresser like she was dodging artillery fire. I raised the paintball gun with 25 years of steady electrical work behind my aim. 30 feet away, it hovered like the world's most expensive clay pigeon. "Smile for the camera," I muttered. What? Perfect shot. The paintball exploded against the camera gimbal in a burst of bright orange paint. The machine went into a death spiral, rotors shrieking like wounded metal before crashing into my rose bushes. Pure, satisfying justice. Garrett materialized from the sidewalk running like his hair was on fire. "You destroyed HOA property. $3,000 in damages." "You were filming my daughter getting dressed," I replied, phone recording his meltdown. "That's called being a pervert." Neighbors were emerging from houses all down the street. Mrs. Finley gave me a not-so-subtle thumbs up from her porch. The Johnson kid was grinning and filming with his phone. But here's where my electrician brain delivered the play of the century. I reached the wreckage first. While Garrett had his public meltdown, I calmly retrieved the drone pieces from my roses. The housing was cracked, but that beautiful micro SD card slot was perfectly intact. I popped out the memory card and pocketed it before he could blink. "That's evidence," he screamed. "Absolutely," I agreed. "Evidence of whatever illegal recording you've been doing. Can't wait to share it with authorities." His face went white as copy paper. The lawsuit hit my door 48 hours later. $3,000 in property damages, $10,000 punitive plus legal fees. They'd also filed a restraining order claiming I was a violent threat to board safety. They had no idea what was on that memory card. Tuesday night in my workshop, hands slightly shaking, I slid that memory card into my laptop. Garrett's panic reaction had told me this wasn't routine surveillance footage. The first files looked standard: aerial shots of the neighborhood, neighbors' pools, Mrs. Finley's garden. Annoying but expected. Then scrolling through 43 video files spanning 6 weeks, something made my stomach drop completely. This wasn't random privacy violation. This was systematic stalking with laser focus on children's bedrooms, bathroom windows, and private family moments when parents weren't home. File after file of illegal recordings, timestamps proving deliberate targeting patterns. Hours of footage that would make any federal prosecutor start salivating. I hadn't just shot down a drone. I'd accidentally uncovered a criminal surveillance operation. I called my lawyer buddy Jake at midnight. "Remember when you said don't do anything stupid?" "Oh Christ. What did you do?" "Shot their spy drone out of the sky." "But Jake, what I found on their memory card changes everything. We need to meet tonight." Jake arrived carrying his laptop and wearing the expression of a lawyer who just realized his friend had stepped into something much bigger than expected. File 12 revealed the real pattern. The drone wasn't just surveilling, it was conducting detailed reconnaissance of specific families. children's bedroom windows, bathroom schedules, family routines when parents weren't home. Jesus Christ, Jake whispered. This is criminal stalking with a federal aviation twist. Then came File 27. Clear footage of Delilah herself entering my backyard while Sage and I were at her school play. She planted garden items that violated HOA covenants, photographed them, then removed them. She's manufacturing violations, I said. Watch this. File after file showed the same pattern across 7 different properties. Delilah trespassing, planting evidence, documenting fake violations, then issuing fines the next morning. Mrs. Finley's unauthorized garden gnome, that appeared and disappeared overnight. The Miller's improper trash container, that materialized during their vacation. Jake was furiously taking notes. This is organized fraud. She's using HOA authority to create fake violations and then profiting from enforcement. It gets worse. I pulled up property records. 3 families foreclosed in the past year for unpaid HOA fines. Guess who bought their houses at sheriff's sales? Jake's face went pale. Delilah's real estate company. Resold for 40% markup after the violations magically resolved themselves. Rex, this isn't HOA harassment. This is a federal criminal enterprise using neighborhood authority as cover for real estate fraud. The final evidence made both our stomachs turn. The drone had been equipped with telephoto lenses capable of recording through glass from hundreds of feet away. Footage from inside multiple homes. Bathroom windows, children's bedrooms, private family moments. Jake counted on his fingers. Mail theft, trespassing, fraud, invasion of privacy, stalking of minors, and if they used federal communications for any of this, we're looking at RICO violations. He closed his laptop with a snap. Rex, you're not the defendant anymore. You're the key witness in what's about to become a federal case. Jake connected me with Rebecca Martinez from the Civil Rights Division, a federal attorney who specialized in privacy violations and government overreach. She arrived at my house carrying 3 legal briefcases and spreading papers across my kitchen table like a general planning a battle campaign. Mr. Caldwell, what you've documented here violates approximately 15 federal statutes. She tapped the drone footage screenshots. Video surveillance of private property without consent breaks the Fourth Amendment. When it involves minors, the penalties become seriously ugly. My neighbor network had grown into something powerful. Mrs. Finley shared her Ring doorbell footage. The Johnsons provided their security camera angles. Sarah Martinez contributed her home surveillance recordings. We'd created a neighborhood-wide documentation network capturing every HOA board movement. Rex, this is like having our own intelligence operation, Mrs. Finley said, reviewing the compiled footage. We have more evidence than most criminal trials. Then I set a trap so elegant it made Rebecca grin. I deliberately placed a small garden gnome 14 inches from my property line instead of the required 15. Minor enough to trigger their evidence-planting reflex, major enough to look like an honest mistake. Entrapment only applies to law enforcement, Rebecca explained. Private citizens documenting crimes, that's called being a good witness. Wednesday night, my motion-activated cameras caught Garrett breaking into my backyard at 2:15 a.m. He spent 40 minutes arranging and photographing planted violations, unauthorized garden decorations, improperly colored trash containers, even a small promotional sign he'd stolen from someone's yard. My audio pickup caught gems like, "This will teach that troublemaker," and "Nobody fights the HOA and wins." The violation notice appeared in my mailbox Thursday morning, citing the exact items he'd planted 12 hours earlier. The timestamps on my security footage matched his documentation photos perfectly. I called Rebecca immediately. We've got them committing federal crimes on high-definition video with audio confession. Rex, this is prosecutorial gold. Trespassing, evidence tampering, fraud, conspiracy. They just gift-wrapped their own federal indictment. Then Delilah showed up at my door Thursday evening, her usual arrogance replaced by something that looked suspiciously like fear. $5,000 to settle everything quietly. Drop the complaints, sign a non-disclosure agreement, and we'll forget this ever happened. I kept my voice recorder running throughout her entire visit. So you're offering to pay me to hide evidence of federal crimes? She slid an envelope across my table. All you have to do is sign and return the memory card. There it was. Attempted bribery. Captured in high-definition audio. Delilah, did you really think I'd keep evidence of children being stalked in my desk drawer? The FBI is already reviewing your surveillance footage. Her face went completely dead. She left without another word. Friday evening, 7 p.m. The community center was packed with 87 residents and 3 people who had absolutely no idea their criminal empire was about to collapse on live television. Rebecca sat with 3 federal agents dressed as ordinary citizens. Channel 7's investigative reporter had set up in the back corner, camera rolling for what she'd been told was a community governance story, about to become the lead segment on criminal prosecution of elected officials. Delilah called the meeting to order with her usual dictatorial confidence. Tonight, we address the violence and harassment our board has endured from a single disruptive resident. She gestured toward me with theatrical smugness. Mr. Caldwell, would you like to explain your terrorist activities to your neighbors? I stood slowly, laptop bag in hand, feeling 87 pairs of eyes track my movement. Actually, Delilah, I'd love to share some footage with everyone. I walked to the front, connected my laptop to the projector, and smiled at the woman who'd spent 6 months destroying my family's peace of mind. The first image appeared on the large screen. High-definition footage of Garrett breaking into my backyard at 2:47 a.m., methodically planting violation evidence while muttering threats. The room went absolutely dead silent. This is Mr. Bloom trespassing on my property to manufacture HOA violations. Notice the timestamp. This is happening 12 hours before I received a citation for the exact items he's planting. I clicked to the next file. Then another. 43 videos worth of illegal surveillance, trespassing, evidence planting, and fraud, displayed across the community center screen while the perpetrators sat frozen in their chairs. And here is financial proof that Mrs. Winters has been using manufactured violations to force families from their homes, then purchasing those properties through her real estate business at share of sales, reselling them at 40% markup after the violations magically disappeared. That's when the federal agents stood and identified themselves. FBI. We have warrants for Delilah Winters, Garrett Bloom, and Maxine Torres. The room erupted. Delilah's face went from confident to terrified in 30 seconds. Garrett tried to run, and got tackled by my neighbor's linebacker-sized teenage son, who'd clearly been waiting for exactly this moment. This is all fake, Delilah screamed as handcuffs clicked around her wrists. He's the criminal. I walked to the microphone while agents read them their rights. The illegal surveillance stops now. The manufactured violations stop now. The terrorizing of children and families in this neighborhood stops now. I held up the memory card that had started everything. Sometimes you have to document a surveillance state before you can destroy it. The entire room stood and applauded as 3 federal agents escorted 3 former HOA board members toward the exit. Channel 7's reporter was capturing everything, already crafting the story that would make national news by morning. The federal sentencing was swift and deeply satisfying. Delilah received 4 years in federal prison plus $200,000 in restitution to victims. Garrett got 3 years and permanently lost his security license. Maxine, who cooperated fully and provided additional evidence of financial fraud, received 18 months and helped recover most of the stolen HOA funds. The criminal charges read like a prosecutor's Christmas list: mail theft, conspiracy, fraud, violation of civil rights, organized harassment, and about 12 other federal violations I hadn't even known existed. All fraudulent fines were refunded. $127,000 returned to homeowners who'd been victims of the manufactured violation scheme. Mrs. Finley's foreclosure was not only dismissed but resulted in a settlement ensuring she'd never worry about property taxes again. The HOA dissolved completely and reformed with what we call constitutional protections: strict limits on surveillance, transparent financial reporting, and actual resident votes on any expenditures over $500. I was elected to the new board as Director of Oversight and Common Sense, a position we created specifically to ensure no future board could weaponize neighborhood authority against families. Rebecca Martinez had been right. Our case became a federal model for prosecuting HOA corruption. Congressional hearings led to new federal guidelines restricting surveillance authority. Our story sparked copycat prosecutions in 4 neighboring states. Sage's relationship with her friends was fully restored. She started a privacy rights club at school that now has 43 members and has been featured in the local paper twice. She graduated with a full scholarship, partly based on her essay about standing up to institutional abuse and defending civil rights. She's studying law with a focus on constitutional protection, inspired by watching federal agents arrest the people who terrorized her family. 3 weeks ago, a desperate father in Arizona called me. His HOA was using drones to harass his autistic son. 2 days later, a mother in Ohio contacted me about manufactured fines designed to force her family's eviction. Sage looked at me across the kitchen table. Dad, you should start a YouTube channel. Help people fight back. Looking around this community center at families who can finally live in peace. Kids flying kites where surveillance cameras once watched their every move, neighbors growing vegetables together in the garden plots that replaced the HOA's enforcement office. I think my daughter might be exactly right. Because it turns out the most powerful security system isn't cameras watching your neighbors. It's neighbors who actually give a damn about protecting each other. Here's what I need every single person watching this to understand. Delilah Winters wasn't unique. This exact operation, manufactured violations, targeted harassment, forced foreclosures, predatory property acquisition, is running in neighborhoods across America right now. If your HOA fines feel random, check whether specific families are being targeted disproportionately. If a board member also works in real estate, pull the property records on every home that's been foreclosed in your subdivision in the last 5 years. If surveillance equipment is being purchased without a homeowner vote, demand a full financial accounting immediately. The moment Delilah's drone started recording children, she escalated from harassment to federal crime territory. She counted on her victims being too isolated, too frightened, and too overwhelmed to fight back. The moment I started documenting everything, every fine, every encounter, every suspicious pattern, her entire empire became a federal indictment waiting to happen. Document everything. Connect with your neighbors. Request your HOA's complete financial records. Because somewhere in those records is the evidence that proves whether your HOA is serving your community or preying on it. Drop a comment if you're dealing with HOA surveillance, drone harassment, or manufactured violations. Subscribe to the HOA Files. We expose these stories every single week because too many families are fighting these battles completely alone. Share this with anyone living in an HOA. You might be handing them the first piece of evidence that saves their home. The HOA Files, because your home is your castle, and nobody gets to put cameras on the walls without your permission.